Good morning, students. Standard 11, subject statistics. In the previous chapter, we have learned about the simple averages, that is, mean, mode, and median. In this chapter, chapter 4, measures of dispersion, we are going to learn about the different measures of dispersion and their absolute and relative measures. Here we are going to learn about range and coefficient of range, quartile deviation and coefficient of quartile deviation, average deviation, that is mean deviation and standard deviation, and coefficient of mean deviation and standard deviation. In the last chapter, we have learned about the simple averages. Though measures of central tendency are very useful in statistical analysis, only these measures are not sufficient. What we have learned about the simple averages that are not sufficient to make any statistical analysis. So we are going to learn about the different measures of dispersion. Here, see the example. A person once visited a forest with his family. The family had to cross the river in the forest for further journey, and that was not available. He knew that the average depth of the river was 100 centimeter. Average. Here, taking the highest, lowest and other depth of the river, the average depth was calculated as 100 centimeter. He knew that the average height of his family was 125 centimeter. That means considering the height of boy, girl, husband and wife, the average height was taken as 125 centimeter. So what he thought, that he and his family will able to cross the river on his foot without any risk. But the maximum depth, someplace, the maximum depth was 150 centimeter and the height of his daughter was only 90 centimeter. So you can understand that the situation, the girl will not able to cross the river because the maximum depth at any point of the river was 150 centimeter, whereas the height of girl was 90 centimeter only. So here simple averages will not work. So we have to find out the measures of dispersion. Take another example here. The example of average income of the people in country, that is per capita income. It is the indicator showing the economic position or condition of the people of the country. But it can be easily understood that it does not throw any light on the distribution of income among the various group of the people. What is per capita income? It is the average income of a person in a country, what he earns. But there might be variation, that few people are very rich, few are from middle class and the others may be poor. So per capita income, that is the average income, does not show the difference between the rich and poor. So we have to deal with the other measures of central tendency to find out more variability in the situation. Here we are going to learn about dispersion, a measure which shows how far the observation of data are scattered from the measure of average is termed as dispersion. The average values which we have learned in the previous chapter and the value of dispersion, how much they are scattered from that average value, to find out that we calculate the different measures of dispersion. You have to write this definition in your notebook. Now here we shall study the following absolute and relative measures of dispersion, that is range, quartile deviation, mean deviation and standard deviation with their coefficients. What is the difference between the absolute measure and relative measure? Absolute measure, which is expressed in the same statistical unit in which the observation of the data are expressed, is called absolute measure of dispersion. That means if the original data is in some unit, say for example kilogram, gram, rupees, so an absolute measure will also be in kilogram only. It will be the same unit showing the absolute measure. Here absolute measure is not useful for comparison purpose of variability, that is dispersion of two or more sets of data having different units of measurement. Suppose weight in kg, height in centimeter of the school. So here absolute measure will not work. So we have to go for relative measure. Relative measure, which is free from the unit of measurement, is called relative measure of dispersion. When two or more sets of data having different units of measurement can be compared only by relative measure of dispersion. Say for example weight in kg and height in centimeter. That we'll see in the practical concept. Here first measure of dispersion, that is range. The difference between the highest and the lowest observation of data is called the range, and it is denoted by the symbol R, that is capital R. The highest value in the given frequency distribution and the lowest value is taken. The difference between the highest and the lowest observation is termed as range. So range capital R is equal to XH minus XL, that is the highest observation minus lowest observation. Relative range or coefficient of range is R upon XH plus XL. So R here we have taken as XH minus XL upon XH plus XL. That is known as coefficient of range. Now we will solve the practical sum based on this of exercise 4.1.